So, Girls of Dark Divine by E.V. Woods was kind of a grim read for the Thanksgiving holidays, but I guess I should have expected as much from the summary. So, the main character, Emberlyn, is currently the lead dancer of a theater troupe that has gotten pretty famous in the city of New Cora. It's a really prestigious kind of show now where people will come to see it multiple times, and many of the dancers in the city dream of becoming part of it. But what the spectators do not know is that the dancers in this troupe really aren't there of their own free will. Emberlyn herself didn't find out until she was recruited that all the girls in this dance troupe are under a really terrible curse that forces them to obey the theater master, who's called Malcolm. He brings girls into his troupe and basically takes control of their entire lives. They aren't able to do things that he does not allow, and he tells them also that he'll know if they try to run away, so there isn't even any escape. He dictates pretty much every part of their lives, what they can and cannot eat. He prevents them from leaving the theater, so they can't do anything outside of it. Their world basically becomes his performances, which are essentially puppet shows, I guess, where he literally manipulates what they all do as they perform on stage. So Emberlyn is getting really fed up with this. I guess I think it's pretty easy to see why. She's been in the troupe for something like 3 years now, and she's becoming desperate to find a way to free herself and her she calls them her sisters, so they're not related by blood, but they are going through quite a lot together, and her determination to find a way out of the situation is further fueled by the death of one of their members, which kicks off this particular book. So, because originally it's not the first death that has happened, but it wasn't until now that Emberlyn and her sisters have kind of accepted that it's the curse that they are now under that is killing them. So if they don't find a way out, eventually, their fate is going to be to join the other people, dancers who have died before them, basically used up by this person who is now in charge of pretty much their entire world. So let's see. The story focuses on basically her attempts to find a way out of the situation, to figure out what's going on, and a meeting between her and this really strange boy who appears to be kind of made of dust and shadows. If he steps into the light, it literally causes him to begin to disintegrate, but he has some kind of tie to Malcolm and the theater that she wants to understand, and that may be important in helping them to unravel the things that have been trapping them. So let's see, something that I like. I thought the premise of this book was pretty interesting. I was specifically looking for theater-related stories that involved actual curses or ghosts or whatever, so it hit pretty much on a lot of the points that I was looking for in something to read. It was also a little interesting that the story is set in an alternate universe, even though this fact didn't really matter in the end. It didn't have much impact on the actual story. I just thought it was kind of an interesting choice when I noticed it. But dislike. For the most part, I think I was getting a little bit bored by the story near the end. It was I don't typically mind if it's slow, but I think there was such a big focus on Emberlyn's internal struggle, which makes a lot of sense considering the story, because they're not allowed to tell people about their curse. They're not really even allowed to talk to each other freely because Malcolm is generally listening and will punish them really horribly if they do things that annoy him and stuff. So almost a majority of the story was focused on Emberlin's own like building hatred and like frustration and anger like with their situation, and then her struggles over what to do because she's willing to go so far as to possibly like attempt murder and maybe even forfeit like her life in pursuit of their freedom. So like there's so much discussion of this, which makes sense and all, but I didn't really feel like it needed quite so many pages, I guess, to go into it. Like I was getting a little impatient, I guess, as I proceeded through the story. Like I did end up finishing it, but I started skimming like parts of it just because it was taking kind of long, and I felt like it kept circling back to some of the same thoughts, and I didn't really understand why this was such a big struggle, since living this way doesn't really seem like much of a life at all. And it's pretty easy to see pretty early on that Malcolm is kind of an evil bastard that needs to be dealt with. I don't actually understand why it was such a difficult decision.